Hey guys, welcome back to our ongoing coverage from Gamescom 2010. I've got Eric Flanham. We're talking all thing Guild Wars 2. Eric, give us a bit of an overview for the people that obviously didn't see this morning's presentation.
Sure. So Guild Wars 2 is a massively multiplayer online RPG. It's a sequel to Guild Wars 1, which has been a great success for us. It sold over 6 million copies worldwide. And Guild Wars 2 builds upon a lot of the ideas, a lot of the things we developed in Guild Wars 1. So the three primary things that we try to do in Guild Wars 2, the first, we want to tell a really personal story. And so we do that by having the character fill out a biography on character creation. And that then affects the story that they'll see during the game. And the player will also get to make choices along the way that will have a direct effect upon the narrative of the story. So we also have a combat system that is a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more visceral, with a heavy emphasis on positioning and sort of tactics. And then the last thing is we wanted Guild Wars 2 to be a truly cooperative game. And so we have a dynamic event system which encourages players to play with each other and gives them shared goals. So no more accepting quests and making sure you're on the same quest step with everybody else. Our dynamic event system allows players to simply just play with each other and experience kind of heroic moments together.
Now, one of the design mantras seems to be getting rid of the glut that seems to clog up a lot of other MMOs. How are you doing that?
So we're doing that in a few ways. The first way is we provide a lot of different ways for people to play, and we kind of don't force that play style on the player. They're free to do what they want. If a player prefers to follow the storyline, they can do that. If they would rather kind of run around in big epic sort of battles with other players, they can do that. We're not going to force anybody to read a bunch of text or to sit through cutscenes or to do any of that sort of thing. So players can kind of play the way that they want to play.
Now, you mentioned dynamic, and obviously that's a really big part. Today in the demo we saw dynamic world bosses, and as well as that, bosses that change in conjunction with the amount of players that are doing the content. Tell us about that.
Okay, so one of the things that was really important for us with the dynamic event system was that players be able to play them kind of on their own terms, so that one player is able to go out in the world, and if maybe there aren't other players around, that they can participate in these events. But at the same time, if a lot of players have gathered together in an area, that the events are still good there for them too. And so we do a lot of dynamic scaling of the events. So for example, in an event that you have waves of creatures coming in, you'll see the waves get successively larger or smaller depending on the number of players there. And then you mentioned our boss creatures. Obviously we can't just spawn more bosses and things like that. And so what we do is we unlock new abilities for bosses, which doesn't mean that they're harder, but they're abilities that allow the bosses to take on more players. So for example, we have a boss creature called the Drake Broodmother, who, when more players start fighting her, she'll get this big tail sweep where she spins around and knocks players away from her, and that's a way we allow the boss encounter to become more interesting when you have more players involved in it.
We also saw a little bit of class variety this morning. Hunters, for example, warriors will be able to use hunter-style bows, and there is no dedicated raising and healing class.
Yes. So that was another thing. We didn't want players to have to wait around for a particular profession. We didn't want players to have to play a profession that they maybe didn't want to play because, the group of players I play with, none of them wants to play a healer, and so I guess I better play a healer. We didn't want you to have to play with that player you maybe really don't like playing with, but he's the only warrior so you kind of put up with them. That sort of thing. And so what we've done is made all of our professions very versatile. So you mentioned a warrior before. A warrior with a bow in many games is you use a bow for pulling or things like that. You can't really deal good range damage as a warrior. In Guild Wars 2 that's not the case. A warrior with a bow can deal really good range damage. Then they have multiple weapon sets. They can switch that up, and so they can switch to dual axes and become a melee damage dealer. You could also equip maybe a mace and a shield and become more of a resistant damage absorbing character. Or if you wanted to, you could equip a warhorn and buff your teammates. And so the warrior is really, really versatile, and we bring that over to all of our professions.
Sounds like you're bringing a lot to Guild Wars 2. When can people expect to get their hands on this one? Which platform?
Well, right now we're concentrating on making Guild Wars 2 the best PC game we can possibly make it. That means we don't want to release it before it's done. We want it to be a great game when we release it. We, think our fans deserve that, and we don't want to work on a game for a few years and then release it slightly early and be regretting that. So we'll release it. I think we've said our goal for the game is that we make it the greatest MMO ever created, and when we feel like we've accomplished that, I think we'll release it then.
Sounds like you've taken a page out of the Blizzard book.
Well, yeah, a lot of the people at ArenaNet are from Blizzard, so yeah.
Eric, thank you very much for your time. That's a look at Guild Wars 2 coming soon, and stay tuned to GameSpot's ongoing coverage from Gamescom 2010.